Well, welcome back, everybody. This is going to be a real quick video, and I want to speak on regarding the Trump assassination prophecies. And I'm really just talking out loud here. I am not calling or advocating for the assassination of Trump. And, just in my being 100%, I would not like this to happen. And so I just want to start off by saying that. I don't want to encourage anybody to do this, obviously. And so I also want to just share the prophecies, or at least the main one. But I also want to speak on some things because I think that there are other things that are involved, and I want to really speak over these things because I think, there could be some similar. Obviously, we've had about 4 assassination attempts or 5, I think, in the last year. So places he was very close to that could have, he could have been actually killed. So that's what I want to say to start off with. And there is a guy that's pretty famous on YouTube. His name is Brandon, and most people are familiar with him in the prophetic space. But that Brandon had said, this was a couple years back, that Trump would. There was a prophecy regarding that, Trump, and that most people thought that Brandon had said Trump would get shot in the ear. But when you actually look at the prophecy, he said that it, and I will say that it was a miracle that Trump did survive this. He turned his head the second right before the guy shot and missed his head as he turned. But Brandon had actually said that the shot was gonna pass by his ear, and that the force would burst his eardrum and that caused his ear to bleed from the inside. So that wasn't quite exactly a fulfillment of the prophecy, but it was off. But a lot of people gave him credit for it, so I'm not necessarily saying that it wasn't prophetic. And then there was another person recently that gave a prophecy as well. And I want to say that, so I want to talk about that. And there's and I thought it was a little strange, this prophecy, because he said that, or I think it was actually a female, she saw that Russia and China would be invading the U.S. Now, the thing she said was a little different, is that she said that that France would join Russia and China. And I was like, wow, that's for most people would be a pretty shocking, like they wouldn't believe that. And so Brandon had recently said another prophecy, and this prophecy is that you find the prophecy, I wrote it down. That Brandon had said that God was showing him that Trump would be, he had this vision, dream. He's saying that they were trying to pray it away. So I'm not saying that Brandon was advocating this either, but that Trump, he saw him being assassinated by a 50 caliber, which is a very large weapon, a sniper rifle, and it would be from far away, from a few miles away. And after he got shot, they didn't know which direction it came from, or because it was so far away. And Brandon had prophesied that this was set up by Macron, and he had paid a Russian ethnic assassin to do it. And this would basically just completely obliterate Trump's torso. So, and he's, talked about praying against it so it wouldn't happen. And I know that sometimes, just myself personally, just with prophecy, it can be hard to interpret what God is saying exactly. So that whole thing with Brandon, that yes, there should have been a very close, like if God's really going to say something, it should be very exact. But sometimes for myself, it can be hard to exactly understand what God is telling you. I'm speaking from my own personal experience. And when God shows me things, they generally are kind of, he confirms it with a bunch of different things, and it starts off, the picture's kind of cloudy. It's just very basic. So I try to fit and just talk about things that it could be. And then God uses different ways at different times to speak to me. So it's kind of like I try to always understand, like he's showing me something in a new way a lot of times. And I have to try to figure out the new way he's showing it to me. So half the problem of being a prophetic person or a prophet is that, you have to interpret, and it's training in it. So it does take some training to do. Now, Brandon had previously said that I remember this because I remember listening to it on YouTube, but he said that back in 25, the fall of 2025, that there was going to be like a 75% correction in the stock market that would crash, and that didn't happen, and it didn't even come close. There was no crash. It was definitely a failed prophecy. Now, maybe eventually there will be, but it didn't happen at that period when he said it was going to happen. So, and I had also, as well, people had spoken about the invasion of America, and I talked about this a couple times, but I had seemed to get a confirming vision when people regarding ships off of our east coast of the United States. Like, it seemed like God gave me a very short vision of that as well, and almost everybody that has these dreams or prophetic dreams or visions, it seems like it's always missiles and what do you call it? Artillery that's basically hits the shore, that they attack the shores first of our country as they invade. And I think there was something with, that, what do they call it? That bomb that in the atmosphere that messes up our electronics. I don't remember the exact thing about it, but I could have had a vision about that as well. So anyways, that being said, so, in the event, if there was, let's say Macron did hire somebody, it was proven really quickly that he did it, obviously the MAGA base and Republican Party members within the party, there are some that would go way overboard. You got your Lindsey Grahams that would, an unused missile is a no good missile to Lindsey Graham. So there could be people pushing for, if it's bloody enough, if it's horrific enough, that they could actually push for an attack on France. I mean, this could happen, And Macron, he's almost out of politics. Obviously, he's got issues with his wife that's being talked about and exposed. And Marine Le Pen looks like she's going to take power in the next few years and take over the country, and she is a populist, which would probably align with Trump. So it would, Macron and these people like the leader of Trudeau, these people would be glad to see something bad happen to him, I'm sure. And recently Macron has been basically squeezed by Trump politically. And, King Charles seemed to surrender to Trump, and obviously our country in dealing with Venezuela, Cuba, and Iran now seem to get them to capitulate. So now Venezuela is shipping us oil, and this whole thing has been turned around and changed. The world order is seeming to be changed. So there's a lot of people that seem to hate Trump, and, I could see someone like Macron doing that. So let's say, if there is this attempt, and I want to say too as well that sometimes God's will is not our will, and that we could actually be fighting against God, because I'm a January 6er. I've said that before, and I was at the Capitol, and to me at that time it appeared a very desperate situation as far as these the things I saw happening in our country, but God's will is a different thing. God did not want to be exposed at that time. So that's a lesson I learned. And so sometimes God's will is not our own. And I'll also say that, biblically speaking, during the times of Jeremiah and after Elijah, there was a time set for judgment. And no matter what, there was going to be judgment. And at that time, like say for Israel and for Judah, those countries at the time, there was what was going on. There was a lot of corruption in the governments. They were taking advantage of the poor. Hosea, he detailed all the perversion of the peoples and the leaders and how they had forgotten God. They lived in disobedience. So it was a time of judgment. And you can look at even historical times like World War I. There was an assassination of Prince Ferdinand, and that led to basically a huge world war with one guy being assassinated. So I think what God has shown me is that, a lot of people think that They talk about America being Babylon, and in some ways we can be similar to that ancient country, because Babylon was the most powerful military at the time. They were brutal in their tactics, very brutal, and they would just demand countries submit, that kind of stuff, because their military was so effective, and their culture was very decadent. You could see even the leaders of Nebuchadnezzar and all these leaders were super rich, super prideful and arrogant, fast twitch kind of leaders, I guess I would call them, and. So Babylon was completely destroyed. It never came back. Never came back. The culture, the ruins kind of became. It still never was resettled, but it kind of, now we have countries that have taken up around it. But even the original areas in ruins, the original place. And I want to say that from what God has shown me, that America is more like Israel and Judah in the Old Testament. That there was a time for extreme judgment, but the country survived because it was based on God, not on, it was a lot of cultures come and go, but from what God showed me, that it is a time of judgment, but America will survive. So in the event, in the future, I want to share these events that, I'm actually creating this video, that way in the future, if this event is about to occur, I want to warn the people. So I will definitely be ringing the bell if I feel like it could happen very soon, this exact event or something very similar. So I just wanted to create this video just to really warn people, and the prophecies do kind of fit together. So I'm not saying it will happen, but I want to, if there's a very, very, very serious chance of something bad happening to the president, then I want to warn the people. So just letting you know, and I want to create the video ahead of time. Thank you. Please subscribe as well. Thanks.